What's going on, world? My name is Serial Sensei, and for today's video I'm going to be talking about 5 hidden gems on the PS3. Now, just for a quick disclaimer for the footage, my PS3 remote is a little bit janky, so if during the video you see some of my movements just look a little weird or out of place, it's not the game, it's me. All of these games handle just fine, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get this video started. Syndicate is a cyberpunk-themed first-person shooter where you take the role of an agent known as Miles Kilo, who works for this organization called Eurocorp, who take up arms against these rival corporations and eliminate some of their more prominent members in this whole little war and like battle for power they kind of got going on. And there's a decent story here that covers the typical cyberpunk theme. So we got corruption, we got conspiracies, we got some betrayals, we got secrets. And while they don't go too deep into the story, I do like the look of the world, and that you do actually get some lore, even with like weapons that you can pick up and little documents that you pick up here and there. So there is lore and there's a story here. It's serviceable. It gets the job done. It won't blow you away by any means, but it's done decent. It's done decently well. But Syndicate's bread and butter is not in the story. It is in the gameplay, which I had all kinds of fun with. For the basics, it handles well as a shooter as far as, you know, just things like movement, aiming, and just the overall feel. The guns that you get, you got a nice little assortment of blickies to pick from. We got pistols, we got shotguns, sniper rifles, and then we get a little more futuristic and cyberpunkish with like laser guns, and one of my favorites, the Gauss gun, which has tracking bullets that can pretty much automatically hit a target if you lock onto it. And on top of the different assortment of weapons, that some of the weapons also have double functions, but on top of that, Kilo also has what is known as a dart chip, which lets him hack into the world around him, and you can kind of use the dart chip abilities to defeat enemies and manipulate the environment. And that's where this game gets really fun, and you can hack people and have them do anything from commit suicide to have them turning on their fellow soldiers. You can even hack into turrets and have the turret mow down a whole room of enemies when the turret was originally meant to kill you, but you know, now you can kind of flip the script. And you can also use the dart chip to use the dart overlay mode, which slows down time and lets you see the location of enemies also within the area. So this mixture of kind of slick gunplay with the dart chip abilities made this so much fun to go through. With the chip abilities, you can get really creative on how you decide to clear out rooms and maneuver through the environment. And it's also worth noting that throughout the game, when you kill specific people, normally people who are a little more important, you tend to extract a chip from them, and this will allow you to spend points and give yourself different kinds of upgrades, which kind of furthers, deepens the gameplay. And this isn't the longest campaign. I want to say I finished this in around 6 hours or so. Fortunately, I didn't get to play the online mode. That's not really a thing anymore, but even still, the campaign was worth it. The stages, the areas are all pretty fun. The enemies are are pretty fun. You got some challenging boss fights in this game. Some are a little annoying, but I had a good time for the most part. And like I said, this mixture of gunplay with the dart chip, and also this whole cyberpunk aesthetic that they went for, I think they did a pretty good job, man. This was a pretty memorable experience for me, and I think this is a game on the PS3 that you should definitely check out if you get the chance to. Killer is Dead is a unique, stylish hack and slash game, and if you're a fan of games like No More Heroes, then this will definitely be right up your alley. Now, I actually mentioned Killer is Dead in my previous video of games that I believe need to be ported to modern consoles, and since that video, I've actually finished Killer is Dead completely, so now I can say without question, this game's dope. It's really fun, and you should definitely play it. Like I said in that previous video, the story of Killer is Dead is a little weird. It's told in a confusing way, but you play as the homie Mondo Zappa, who works at this agency where he's basically a hitman. And at the firm that he works at, they're pretty much paid to eliminate these targets who I think have been infected by dark matter, which comes from the dark side of the moon, which created these enemies called wires, which are the little enemies you fight. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. Listen, I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I could like fully explain this story to you, but the story's there. It's just a little weird. But while I can't really explain the story, I can tell you the gameplay is on point. It is fast-paced, it is fun, it is chaotic, and it has some pretty good variety. Mondo has a katana, which you'll be using to slice and dice, cutting folks up. And the more you hit people and don't get hit, you'll be filling up your combo meter. And if you fill it up all the way, you'll get to pull off these really dope finishing moves. And depending on which finishing move you choose, because it'll bring up a little icon and you can press a button depending on which button you press, you'll be rewarded with an item. And you know, that's always great. Be rewarded for your slaughter and your mayhem. That's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. And if you manage to pull off a perfect dodge, which is also one of my favorite things to do in this game, you can activate the adrenaline rush mode, where you'll basically be moving at hyperspeed, cutting folks up at 1,000 miles per hour for at least a good 10-15 seconds, and that really never gets old. And if you don't want to use the katana, that's fine. You got a whole mechanical arm which switches the screen to like a little third person over the shoulder, and you can shoot people, or you can hit them with a drill. Like you get variety, just a nice variety of violence to choose from. And as you progress through the story, you'll be able to upgrade the mechanical arm as well as purchase other items and upgrade Mondo. And you can buy things like Mika tickets, which help you revive after you die. Or you can buy things like flowers. Now, why would you need to buy a flower in this game? That is because Mondo has gigolo missions where he needs to swoon the ladies so he can get them cheeks. So you got to give him gifts, and then you get the draws, and and Mondo do what he do. It ain't tricking if you got it, and Mondo got it because he be working for it. So shout outs to Mondo. But for what Killer is Dead lacks in substance, in my opinion, it more than makes up for with its art direction, the style, the personality, and most importantly, the gameplay. This game for me it never had a dull moment. Whether I was on a main mission or a side mission, the combat was always fun. The boss fights are wild and wacky, but they're creative, so I enjoy them. And I love the art direction they went with, this like 2D kind of cell shaded art style. I personally think it's beautiful, and you'll hear me say this a lot on this channel. I enjoy games that are just fun, even if they're flawed in terms of story or other elements. If a game is just fun, I'm going to have a good time, and that for me is what Killer is Dead is. It's just flat out fun and chaotic nonsense, and I like it. So if you need a stylish action hack and slash game in your life, look no further. Killer is Dead got you covered. Now, I'm going to let y'all know right now that outside of Mario Kart, you will rarely ever hear me talk about racing games on this channel, because I'm trash at 99.9% of them. But one that does deserve some shine that was on the PS3 is Split Second. Now, the first thing about Split Second that grabbed my attention is the premise. In Split Second, you're taking part in basically what is an action racing reality show, where the goal is not only to get first place, but it is to be destructive and cause mayhem while you do it, and that is the kind of stuff that I enjoy. Y'all know me, I like to be rewarded for my chaotic behavior. In order to be destructive in Split Second, you need to do things like draft behind the other racers, or drift, or pull off air jumps, and you use these methods to fill up what is called your power play meter. And when you fill up the power play meter, you'll be able to trigger these kind of just destructive environmental hazards that'll help you wreck everybody else around you, or you might wreck yourself if you're in the way also. But hey, listen, you see somebody in first place, no problem, fill up that power play meter, be a hater, and trigger an explosion so you can knock them off track and take their spot, because that's what you're supposed to do in this game. But also note that they of course can trigger things too, so while you're driving at God knows how fast you're going, keep an eye out on the environment, because you might get hit by something just random that comes out of nowhere, or something just might explode, so you got to be on your P's and Q's so you don't get wrecked. And like I said, make sure you don't trigger a destructive event while you're next to it, because you can definitely hit yourself. Not that I would know from experience, but it happens. But I love just these moments of triggering the environment, because you can just cause these explosions. You open up shortcuts. Sometimes you can just change an entire part of the track, and it really gives the racing just kind of this extra oomph. It makes things more intense. It's a nice, every race just feels like a shot of adrenaline. You get a pretty good car selection. I'm not a car guy, but you get a nice selection of vehicles, and some of them have different paint colors, so that's cool. That's always a plus. And to keep it interesting, you get to compete in different modes. So you got your standard race mode, and then you have one of my favorites, the detonator, where they set a specific time, and once that clock hits 0, if you're in last place, you are automatically exploded and removed up out the paint from the race. So don't be the last person. And they've also got this wild airstrike mode where you got to dodge missiles from a helicopter. And the more you dodge the missiles, the more points you get. And listen, I don't know what better motivation do you need to do better than a missile that might kill you. So you better get to moving. But these different modes are pretty creative, and there are even more that I haven't mentioned, but it adds more depth to the game, and it makes it so much more chaotic. And I love the presentation of the game, the fact that it really acts like it's in a reality show. So like if you're going through the, I guess, kind of the season mode, after you complete each episode, they give you these little cinematic teasers to kind of show you the wackiness that you're about to have in the next batch of races, as far as like what the track's going to look like and some of the destructive things that you can trigger. And I thought that was a really nice touch to the game. But Split Second is just, it's high intensity, it's high octane, and it's a good racing game to just get that blood pumping. It's a ton of fun. So if you are a fan of racing games and you want one that kind of leans a little more towards the Fast and Furious side of things, Split Second is probably the game for you. Starhawk is a third-person action shooter, and after playing this campaign, I am really salty that I never got to experience the online mode of this game, because boy did this game have some really fun ideas and concepts. Now, in the story of Starhawk, you play as Emmett, a rifter who, along with his brother Logan, mine what is known as Rift Energy, which basically is like the most valuable resource in this world, or the Outer Spur as they call it, kind of where they live. And after being exposed to the Rift Energy, Emmett's brother, Logan, is transformed into what is known as an outcast. And Emmett was luckily saved by his partner Cutter. He was also exposed, but Cutter was able to kind of keep him from turning into an outcast. And now Emmett and Cutter basically travel the world as kind of hired arms to protect the Rift mining sites from the outcasts. And it's a pretty decent story that's serviceable. I really did enjoy the story's presentation, how it's told through these kind of like animated voice acted cutscenes. I thought those were actually really done. That was a really nice touch that kind of, it helped boost the story a bit for me, made me just a little more invested. Gameplay wise, specifically the shooting, Starhawk doesn't do anything too crazy. It doesn't really reinvent the wheel. You got your standard guns, pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, kind of the norm. Nothing really too crazy going on, but it's the other elements that surround the shooting is where Starhawk for me really shined and really kind of separated itself from other games of this genre. The gameplay loop of Starhawk many times will have you going to an area to either clear it out, going against these enemies called scabs, or you're like defending a certain territory. And to do so, you'll be building these structures in real time. And what's, really cool is it really just, it adds an element of strategy where the structures you build, it's really important, not just what you build, but where you building it and where you placing it. Because depending on where the enemies are, you need to make sure you're placing the structure in a good place to either block the enemy. So you might do something like, construct a wall so that you can protect you and your group from enemy fire, or maybe you need to drop a turret down to help you clear out an area faster. If you're low on ammo, you need to build, a supply bunker, try to keep that somewhere nearby so you can re-up on ammo. And it really added just the real-time strategy. I thought was a really, really nice touch on this. So you might even need to build the garage, because the next area you might go to may be a little far and you need a vehicle to get you there faster. So yeah, this whole building mechanic was really, I thought, implemented really well. And the more you progress through the game, the more your partner Cutter will pretty much give you more structures to build. So you'll get to expand on that. And believe me, you will need to be building all of these structures because there are parts of this game that are pretty tough. And to further mix things up, Emmett also gets a mech that he can use, and you can stomp on people, you can shoot folks with, of course, or you can transform, you can take flight, and you can get into some nice, good old-fashioned dogfights. And this is where it gets so fun, man. The combination of the third-person shooting, the real-time strategy with the building and construction of these structures, and then you mix in the mech warfare, bruh. This was so much fun. And I can really see how amazing this multiplayer experience probably was, because the concepts and ideas that Starhawk had, I thought were done in a very creative way, and I could see people having a blast playing something like this. And it helped me, like I said, these ideas that they implemented, it helped keep me engaged in what was becoming a little bit of a repetitive game. The gameplay loop, like I said, it kind of goes through the same loop, I feel like, kind of over and over again. But luckily the campaign was short enough to not wear out its welcome. But I really enjoyed trying to figure out kind of the best ways to defend certain areas and trying to figure out what to build and where to build it, and you know, how to just give myself certain advantages. And it made the action feel more urgent and intense, which I really enjoyed. Starhawk it had some really dope ideas and concepts, and it's kind of a shame that the series didn't really continue and that I never played the online, because I think they had something special here. I really think they had something special here. So even if you only get to play the campaign, I think Starhawk is still worth your time. If you're a fan of third-person shooters, this will definitely keep you entertained. So if you are able to get a hold of Starhawk, I would definitely recommend that you check it out. Hard Corps Uprising is a run-and-gun shooter developed by Arc System Works, and I mentioned this in my previous video of games that need to be ported to modern consoles, and I still stand on the statement that this is easily one of the better run-and-gun shooters that you'll ever play. Hard Corps Uprising is actually a prequel to the original Contra game, and just like the OG Contras, it got that retro challenge to it. So this game is going to punch you in the mouth a couple times, but it is a lot of fun. I really love the art direction of Hard Corps. It almost has this anime style aesthetic to it, and of course the gameplay is really on point. You'll be running and gunning with all of your favorite weapons you'd get in a game like this. So your spreaders, your heat guns, your chain lasers, or if you're a Saori, skip all that. I got a katana, I'm gonna cut all y'all up, and that's how she rolls. As far as traversal, you'll be, you got a dash, you got a mid-air dash, you can double jump. So you'll be doing that while you're traversing through these stages, and the stages themselves are very well designed. They all have their own just unique feel to them, and they look good, and it's everything in this game is just very well done. And to me, what separates Hard Corps from other running guns are the modes that you can play in. Of course, you got your standard arcade mode, which to me, I feel like arcade that's for my OGs. Like, for my people who just really like a challenge, you want a game that is really just going to punch you in the face repeatedly, go to the arcade mode. It's going to take all your your hypothetical quarters. Or you can, go to the rising mode, where you can use points to upgrade your characters, which is really dope. So you can upgrade the characters and give them new abilities. And that kind of helps bring the difficulty down just a little bit. It makes the game a little more accessible and a little less rage-inducing, and you get multiple characters to choose from to complete the game with, which kind of adds some replay value. And each character has different colorways, which I thought was really cool, and that all of the colorways, side note, look really dope. And as I said earlier, the stage layouts, they're really fun, and they offer like a variety of gameplay styles. So you'll be running and gunning, you'll be riding vehicles, it's a nice little mix up, and it's constant chaos and action. The boss fights, of course, are really challenging, but they're still a good time. And just for a run and gun game, I don't have any complaints about Hard Corps. Honestly, like I can't really do a deep dive on this. There's nothing else to say except this game is really good. That's it. That's it, bro. This game is really good. If you like running guns, there's absolutely no way that you won't enjoy this. This is definitely one of my favorite gems on the PS3, and of every game I've mentioned in this video, this is probably the one I would recommend the most. I have a blast playing this every time I cut it on. So if you've never gotten to play Hard Corps Uprising, definitely give this a go. I promise you will not regret it. Well, that's all I've got for today. These are my 5 PS3 hidden gems that I would recommend. What did you think of these games, and what PS3 games / gems would you recommend for me and for others to check out? Let me know how you feel in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and as always, y'all stay safe, y'all stay hydrated, and I will catch y'all on the next video. So I don't really care about winning. I wrecked enough people to unlock the bonus event, so. I thought I was gonna dodge it. Oh, Ruben, you jerk.